This is Sports 225 with Lee Feinswag. Sports 225 with Lee Feinswag is Baton Rouge's longest running and best television show. Who would have believed that?
My best friend, Lee Feinswag, with the Christmas.
Sports 225 is brought to you by Breck. Remember, it all starts at Breck. Now, your host, Lee Feinswag.
Well, I finished last year's season with Ron Higgins and knew that he'd come back to kick off 2018. But in between, there were some pretty nasty negotiations. Ron used to get $1 a show. 2018, he wants $2 a show, double. It's obscene, and I caved, just the way some people cave with football coaches. And I'll start there. Am I the only one who thinks it's totally obscene and that LSU should have told Dave Aranda, Dave, it's been nice, but best of luck to you, and Ed, just go hire yourself what you need, and you got $1 million, not $2 million.
I agree with you in one sense. LSU made their own bet on this one. They absolutely made their own bet. One, by hiring Ed Orgeron, and then Ed admitting, like, it's all my coordinators. So I'm just being the CEO. So immediately you're giving coordinators this tremendous power in responsibility. Okay, so you hire. So you when you're interim, you hire Steve Ensminger as your tight ends coach. He does a good job. Against Florida, Alabama, terrible, but good job otherwise. He didn't really want the job, so he goes out and hires Matt Canada at $3 million a year. Didn't really like what Matt's doing, so you're going to fire Canada. The only good thing you got going in everybody's in the sense of the fans and in Orgeron's mind is Aranda. We've got to do anything to keep him. We'll give him, we'll open up a bank for him. And so he does that. So Aranda is a beneficiary of this perfect storm. And I'm not disagreeing with you. It's a ridiculous amount of money. But Aranda's in the right place at the right time. And meanwhile, Ed's going to go back and apparently rehire Steve Ensminger as his offensive coordinator, the guy that didn't want it a year ago, but then wasted $3 million on Canada, and then he's going to go back to Ensminger when he should have hired him a year ago. If he would. So it's LSU. It's LSU. And so every day you get up going, how stupid can they be today? It's awesome. As a columnist who covers LSU and SEC, it's just every day is just like, oh boy, I know they're going to do something incredibly stupid today. It's going to be so fun. And now, I'm sitting here trying to deal with this Ensminger hire, and I know Steve had been the coordinator in 20 years, and I hope he does well. I like Steve Ensminger personally. I think nobody doesn't want him to do well. But when I see what the rest of the SEC did in their head coaching hires and hired up a bunch of great offensive minds, current offensive minds, and Ed's kind of settled on Ensminger, it kind of makes me worry that LSU won't get past 7-5 next year.
Well, the key word is it makes you feel like he's settled. And like you, I know Steve and like Steve and wish him nothing but the best. After Monday night, where the two best teams in the SEC played for the national championship and went to overtime, thereby us capably saying that they're the two best teams and they're pretty equal, but they're way better than everybody else in the league right now. Mm-hmm. If Auburn is third, would you give me that Auburn might be the third best team?
Yeah.
If LSU perhaps is the fourth best team, okay, which is not far-fetched, still not getting LSU up into the top 15, how far? Like, is it Alabama, Georgia, Auburn, and then LSU somewhere down below the floor?
I'd say so. I'd say it was funny that Kirby Smart was defending the SEC, saying he didn't think the league was down this year. Well, if it wasn't down, first of all, it ended up 6 and 7 in bowls. That's the second straight year that's happened. They had a losing record in bowls, and that's the first time since like the 90s it's happened. Then, you look there was almost like a break-even record against non-conference Power 5 teams. And then you have, 4 or 5 coaches fired? If it's such a great league, how come you can't all these people fired? So, yeah, I think there's a humongous gap. And last night when you watched that game, if I'm an LSU fan, I just feel like start drinking heavily, as they say in Animal House. I advise you to start drinking heavily. Because you watch that, at halftime you have a head coach, probably one of the best ever, decide, you know what, I don't like what I'm seeing. I'm going to play a freshman quarterback and roll with it and see what happens. A guy who hasn't, I went back and looked up, he hadn't played against, except for against Mercer, he hadn't played at all in the last 4 or 5 games, all the really key games down the stretch. So, and he goes with him, and the kids, and they take a risk and they roll with it, and the kid's tremendous. And he was, and then he throws a game-winning TD to a guy from maybe Louisiana. Makes it a little more.
But to finish on the thought about that game, the last 3 plays of that game were unbelievable. Georgia facing a 51-yard field goal, most unlikely scenario on the top of the first half of the first inning, if you will, of overtime.
Yeah.
And the kid nails a 51-yarder. What a play. Great for him. And I felt really bad for the Alabama place kicker. I thought if Alabama was going to win, I wish Alabama had won at the end of regulation where the kid hit the field goal, because I just felt bad for the kid. And then the next play of overtime is Tua getting sacked and losing like 16, 17 yards.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, okay, they're in big trouble now because the aforementioned place kicker is going to be called upon to try to tie this game, and Georgia's going to win. And then he throws just a lightning bolt of a touchdown pass.
Beautiful.
So those 3 plays in a row, the field goal, the sack, and the touchdown pass, was a remarkable finish to the 2017 football
exactly.
season.
It was tremendous, and we knew that game would be tight. It tightened up in the end. Georgia looked tremendous the first half. Alabama, didn't play well. Hurts didn't have a good game. I thought it was remarkable how both Tua and Hurts handled the post game. I mean, with both, especially Hurts, saying, I just want to win. I wasn't playing well. So yeah, you watch that game, you go, wow. And then if you're an LSU fan, you go, oh man, we're so far from that. We're not even close. I mean, God, look at who we're hiring. Man.
All right, I hate it when you whine. Stop it. Not for a 100% raise. Get to be on this show. He's Ron Higgins. Yeah. You can follow him at Ron Hig, and also read his stuff at NOLA.com. We'll be back to Sports 225 on Lee Fine
Squad. See that dog lover? About to unleash the terror hound on these friendly, unsuspecting canines? Well, I'm the human dislike button, and I see it too. Easy there, Cujo. Taking part in a dog socialization program at a shelter or pet store can help nip this problem in the bud. And no matter how well socialized your pet is, cleaning up the little rays of sunshine they leave in their merry wake is your responsibility. To learn more about me, go to breck.org/HDB.
Back on Sports 225, first show of 2018, hanging out with Ron Higgins from NOLA.com, and Nils Breckoff directing the show today from Your View and our Cox 4. And we were talking earlier, and he said, LSU just doesn't look like they belong when you watch those 2 teams. We're talking about Georgia and Alabama, and that was one of the first things that you said when we sat down and prepping for the show. So if the LSU football program perennially has a top 3, 4, 5 recruiting class, perennially sends players off to the NFL, and this year in the playoffs, for example, there are lots of former LSU players on the NFL playoff teams. But yet, you're, since basically 2011, a 15 to 25 team, not a 1 through 15 team. And I got some numbers on that I want to bounce off you in a minute. Something is amiss there, isn't it? And ultimately, you have to point your finger at coaching if you've got the players.
That's what you point your finger at.
Yep.
That's why Les got fired, because LSU recruits these great guys, but they don't get much better. I mean, I don't think they really get much better. And they're so talented, they can make the pros basically by, just playing and not getting hurt. I mean, and you're right. I mean, I think LSU had the most players in the pros this year, like 50 or 51, something like that. Every year, like you said, top 5 to top 10 class, and it doesn't pay off.
It doesn't translate.
No, it doesn't translate at
all.
Right,
because here's some numbers for you. if you count bowl games, starting with the 2011 championship game, we'll call that a bowl game against Alabama that LSU lost 21-0. That was the first of 7 bowl games that LSU now is 3-4 in after the loss this year to Notre Dame. But also in that time, I may be wrong by 1 or 2 because I can't remember what I wrote down. LSU was either 53-24 or 54-23 in that time. That gives LSU, like I said, a 15 to 25 kind of ranking in place in the college football world. On one hand, you look at it and say, this is a damn good college football program. I mean, perennially in the top 25, perennially winning 9 games. However, that is not getting you into the upper echelon. You're not sniffing the top 5. You're not in contention for the championship. And so you're basically relegated to, however, is it 150 teams that compete now?
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah.
So you're in the top, not 10%, because that would be 15, but you're in that next, 7 or 8%, but you're not knocking on the other door.
Yeah. And that's
some big time research right there, huh?
There really is.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
The Fine Swag Institute.
I might have wrote it down and checked it off and everything.
The Fine Swag Institute of Statistical Data. Yeah, I mean, everything you said is true. I've gone those numbers myself, and I mean, it adds up to the fact that players come to LSU and they don't really get any better, and obviously offensively they've never really been in a system. It still, I guess, amazes me, and also people from the outside football world now. LSU places so many great receivers in the pros and offense design really not to get them the ball.
Yeah.
And it's amazing if you're an LSU receiver and you make it to the pros and make it in. I mean, look at Odell and Jarvis, and you go down the line. I mean, LaFell. I mean, all these guys who made it in the pros.
Even Russell Shepard.
Yeah, made it in the pros, and in LSU, they don't throw the ball that well. Still really don't. So, yeah, it's if I'm an LSU fan right now, I'm not feeling really well. I mean, I wasn't. You were feeling well after the Notre Dame loss in bowl game, but you really weren't feeling well the past few days, whether this offensive coordinator thing has played out, and also watching Alabama and Georgia last night and realize how far you are behind, and that both of them are on your schedule next year.
Well, you said earlier, in your opening statement, after getting your 100% raise, that you said 7-5. And is that what you're already looking at for next year?
I mean,
it's a long way.
I mean, you play Miami the first game, they'll be a top 5 team. You're playing a coach in Mark Richt who knows LSU. He knows what they're basically all about.
And they were a good story this year. They were close.
Yeah, and they're not going to go anywhere. I mean, and they got that in opener. And I fear for LSU with brand new quarterbacks, new running backs, new coordinator. It's not the recipe you want for an opener. I mean, this is when you want to play a hyphen team. A
geography team.
Yeah, absolutely. Schedule me a hyphen, not Miami. And it's one of the things where you fear that you go in that opener and you get hammered. That's kind of you wonder how long you can shake shake that off, and we'll see what happens. But I'm looking in the league. I mean, they play, like I said, they play Georgia, they play at Florida again. Now they have Dan Mullen. Alabama's not backing off. Golly, I mean, you go down. Arkansas got Chad Morris as coach, who was the guy who installed Clemson's offense that they run now. Before he went to SMU, Chad Morris at Arkansas, they got him. You go down. It's not a good feeling when you see who hired who in the SEC and what the moves LSU made. It's not a good. If I'm an LSU fan, I don't feel really good right now.
It might be a year to pay attention to spring practice. He's Ron Higgins. I'm correct. This former president of the Football Writers Association of America.
Yeah.
A man who's covered the SEC for, dare I say, 4 decades.
Yes. Dare you say?
I dare. I
you
say.
Dare.
It. I dare. And his stuff can be read at NOLA.com, at the Times-Picayune, and you can follow him on Twitter at Ron Hig. I'm Lee Feinswag. This is Sports 225.
You see that? That's a trash can. It's a special place where trash goes. Not here, not here, Not here. Is that a diaper? You know, the best part about the special place called Trash Can is there's not just one. There are trash cans everywhere. I'm the human dislike button, and I believe in you. I believe in your ability to find a trash can. To learn more about me, go to breck.org/HDB.
We're back on Sports 225, hanging out with Ron Higgins from NOLA.com. We spent the first 2 segments talking nothing but LSU and SEC football, and I'm kind of happy to put football in my rearview mirror, except for some NFL playoffs now for a little while.
Me too.
Yeah. Did you do anything fun over the holidays and catch any downtime?
A little bit. When I went to Orlando for the bowl game, went to Top Golf. It's you heard that concept. It's like a huge 3-story entertainment center that has it's a golf driving range and has restaurants and bars, and it's kind of set up. Has all kind of computerized stuff. It has an automatic ball deal, and they have these huge targets out in front of you, and you hit the ball into these targets, and you score points. It's like a game. It's a great concept. Supposed to build one in Baton Rouge. It's going to make a killing. I had fun doing that. Went to Orlando with my son. We went to the Saints-Tampa game. I went as a fan, with something I hadn't done like forever.
Wow, sat in the stands and all that.
It was fun being with the people, and that was good. That's what I did. Of course, I saw LSU play basketball a couple of times, and I really, like I said, the more I'll watch Will Wade coach, the more I like him.
Yeah, the last time we saw each other was for the LSU-Kentucky game, where LSU represented, and then came back with that nice win at Texas A&M. Tremont Waters, nice shot to win that game. I'm not sure that it was his textbook basketball shot, as you would think, but I mean, just the fact that he was able to catch, shoot, and launch, and bang it, and for them to get just an SEC road win against a decent team for the first time, feels like in forever.
Yeah, I mean, A&M was still, I think, they were number 11 last week, and if you haven't watched Tremont Waters play, anybody out there, go buy a ticket.
Kid's good.
It's so much fun to watch. I mean, he's fearless, absolutely fearless. I mean,
and one thing I like about him is that my criticism of the team right from the get-go was that he was too scoring oriented, and they weren't playing tough defenses, and now they seem to have bought into playing a team defense, and you can tell he's fighting with himself. I don't want to take this game over. It's not my game to take over. Got to keep the teammates in it. Got to distribute. Got to work. But he's there when he needs to score. Yeah.
It's tough. I saw this a reference going back to when I covered University of Memphis with Derrick Rose as a freshman, and for about half that year, he kind of deferred to his veteran teammates. He was a true freshman, and he was the best player, but he would defer. And they played Tennessee, number 1 versus number 2, and I think Tennessee won. But he had a great game and kind of took over. And from that point on, he kind of realized it's okay for me to do this. My teammates want me to do this. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of like something that Tremont has kind of struggled with. But if he doesn't try to take over games, they don't really have much of a chance. I mean, he's got to be the guy who penetrates and kicks it out. He's got to be the guy who makes plays. And so, he just needs to realize, it's on me. And I don't think he doesn't mind being on him, because you see the way he plays. He just plays absolutely, like I said, fearless. He just, comes down against A&M. They're down by 5, pulls up like 35 feet out and launches it, nails it. They call timeout. I mean, the guy missed a free throw, another timeout, and they run a play. They win it. He doesn't mind taking the shot. And it's hard to find kids who don't mind taking the shot, who enjoy the pressure and have used to those situations. And I think he is. And I think that Will's done a good job with not a lot out there talent-wise and kind of fitting pieces together. And we'll see how the season plays out. I mean, the SEC has gotten a lot better. I mean, they couldn't have gotten any worse. But you can kind of see now with the coaches they've hired the past 2 or 3 years, that they've got recruiting classes in, and everybody has gotten better. And it's a better league. It really is.
Someone asked me, I was talking with someone up north during the Christmas break about the SEC and why it's not doing well in basketball, and I said, it's kind of a mystery, and it runs in cycles, but I said, this is a league that's upgraded its coaching a lot. Many of the facilities are way better, and there's no excuse for it not to be better, because there are really, really good coaches with good basketball minds in a pretty fertile recruiting area. And I think some of it is cyclical, but I think we are seeing an uptick right now.
Yeah, I think
sure.
I said the coaches they hired, and they've been there a couple of years now, 2-3 years. They've gotten their recruits, and you can see that they're a lot better. I mean, you see Tennessee is a lot better. I mean, A&M is, Billy's brought that, Kenny brought that team up. Every game now it seems like it's, the teams are pretty decent, and I think they had 3 or 4 of the top 20 as of last week, and it really is. It's just a better league, and LSU was finished last in the league. I don't know if that'll happen. I mean, it's still May. It's a long season, but he doesn't mind going into his bench. Will doesn't, and he makes sure they play hard. And I think LSU fans appreciate that. Even though they lost to Kentucky, they got a kind of standing ovation. Like they put they gave it everything they had. And Kentucky is not as good as it has been. I mean, I saw them play UCLA in the Dome about a week before they play LSU, and UCLA won. I'm thinking, Cal's got all these freshmen. Every year they have 2-3 freshmen. You go, man, that guy's going to be unbelievable in NBA. Yeah. Didn't see anybody on this team like that right now.
All right, we got to take a quick break. We only got a little bit of time left. He's Ron Higgins. I'm Lee Feinswag at Sports 225. Coming down the home stretch of another Sports 225. Thanks to Nils Breckoff for directing today. Go to sports225.com not only to watch all of our archive shows, but also to see show listings for when we're on Cox 4, Your View, and CST. Ron Higgins is here. You can read his stuff at NOLA.com. Got any major projects coming up? Anything good? Any good sports writing to look forward to?
I'm just kind of, I'll probably work on some spring football stuff soon. I want to try to get into more basketball. I have my Golden Handcuffs Award come out tomorrow. The most arrested teams in the SEC. My annual Golden Handcuff winners. and I'm gonna say this.
This will be in retrospect, so you have to go back to NOLA.com and find it.
The 2 teams that tied for the top were in the national championship game this year. Ooh. Most arrested, but on the other hand, on a positive note, arrests were down in the SEC this year for football. It's one of the lowest totals ever for arrests, and that's a positive. The bad thing is that there was a lot of layoffs at bail bonds companies at SEC cities, so it all works together. I love to track this stuff. I love to. I mean, and I have a bunch of 3 or 4 something new. My favorite arrest of the year for different schools. So it's a little something different, but I kind of like to change it up, make it funny. I mean, you got to laugh at some of this stuff.
You got one quick one?
What, favorite arrest?
Yeah.
The Kentucky punter who hours after they lost to Ole Miss got drunk and decided the best place to take a nap was the sidewalk of a busy intersection in Lexington.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
I can't top that. We're out of time. Ron Higgins, read him at NOLA.com. Follow him at Ron Higg. Follow me at Lee Feinswag. Thanks for watching Sports 225. Good night.
At carnival time by Baton Rouge Bay, that's the site of my story. At Spanish Town Mardi Gras,